Afternoon, it is Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. It is 5:12 p.m. This is the regular monthly board meeting of the Augsburg Bridge and Port Authority. This meeting is called to order. Do we have any letters and communications to the board, Mr. Lawrence?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Approval of board minutes of September 6, 2022. Have they been reviewed by the secretary? And
I found everything to be in order.
you motion for approval?
I would make the motion to approve.
There a second?
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Yeah. Aye.
Aye. Minutes of September 6, 2022 have been approved. Reports, presentations and reports, Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, we were, the last board meeting it was the
Committee meeting.
committee meeting, the facilities committee meeting. We kind of briefly reviewed the presentations, and we felt that in-person presentations were needed for the whole board. So at this time, we will do a presentation with CNS engineers, and it's on the railroad engineering, and will be for a 5-year time frame. It's kind of similar to what we do at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And you all have review sheets in front of you that you can use just as a reference to some questions you might want to ask in reference to that. So.
Hi, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Can we move the meeting outside?
It's a beautiful day.
Could be the last one, right?
I hope that.
Dan, you're the director of operations, so we expect you to answer all the tough, or ask all the tough questions.
All right, fair enough.
We didn't know how formal or informal we wanted to have this, so what we did, and we can do whatever we want, is we put together a very brief, like 5-minute overview of our response, and then we can take questions, or we can just go.
That's perfect.
Does that work?
That works.
Okay.
And probably mostly the board, I've reviewed them, my staff has,
Okay.
but really this is for the board to ask questions
Sure.
of you to get a better understanding of your proposal.
Well, that's good. Thank you. Couple of engineers trying to put.
I was gonna say.
So, good evening. My name is Frank Mento. And I am an engineer with CNS Companies. But I also am our business development leader and manager for the employee. Coincidentally, I am a transportation engineer, so highway, bridge, rail, trail, aviation. Those kinds of things. With me is Carl Rose. Carl's our department manager for railroad works. And together, we want to talk about our response that we sent you and then take whatever questions you have. So we put together about 4 or 5 boards. We'll take a minute on each. I think the first thing we wanted to bring to your attention and articulate, make sure we emphasize it, is the fact that we are a full service firm. So we do transportation work, we do it very well, but we have many other groups within the firm that support our work and also have their own work. The nice thing I think about that for you is that if we're doing a track design or redesign or a railroad bridge assessment, and we run into something like an environmental problem, we don't have to go to another firm. We can bring the other players in from our firm to support what we do, okay? So everything from capital planning, track engineering, grade crossings, that's the meat and potatoes of the railroad side. Bridge engineering, site civil, buildings, so structural, mechanical, electrical work. We run into a crossing, it needs mechanical engineering or electrical engineering. We can do that. Subsurface, geotechnical, certainly environmental, historic analysis. I hope we never have to do that, but you never know. Wetlands, site remediation. So full service firm with a dedicated practice towards railroads. Okay. So to pick up on that just a little bit more, this is the company organization chart. You can see all the different disciplines and all the different centers where the work is originating from. But if you pull right out from the transportation sector, this is the org chart that we're presenting for you. So Carl's at the heart of it as the project manager. Everything will go through Carl, and we'll work together as a team to support what needs to get done. And you can see some of the disciplines down here: railroad engineering, highway grade crossings, MBE, WBE considerations. If we have to do that, we will do that. We listed in our proposal some firms that we use based upon their expertise. But we could also use some firms that are more localized if their expertise fits our assignment needs. Okay. And then site assessments and environmental permitting. So that's kind of how we've organized to take on the responsibilities of this term agreement. So Carl, I'll let you talk a little bit about one of the important things we think.
Yep, grants, as you guys know, are a real important part of the business now. Without money, things don't get done. Whether it's you guys or other clients of ours, they're on fixed budgets, and they got a fixed amount to dedicate towards not only engineering, but the construction of the project. So, we've learned over the years to really help, clients, achieve their goals. And we've developed in-house, a team of grant writing professionals. One of which was in the grant category on the org chart, Elizabeth Harder, who helps me quite regularly with writing grants from PFRAP and the New York State DOT, Chrissy grants to Bill grants to economic development agency EDA grants. She's helped me with all of them. And recently we've hired a second a dedicated grant writer who's got another broad depth of experience. So we're realizing it's really important to support our clients with, finding money and then following up by helping to administer that money correctly and making sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and all the agency requirements. Heaven forbid that the auditors want to look at something in the end, that everything is set, from all the minority goals reporting to the EEO requirements to just how the money was allocated and spent through contracting and engineering and administration. We're accustomed to it all. With grants, and then just to close out, we wouldn't be here if we weren't passionate about it. Railroad engineering is my passion. I've been a railroad engineer now for 15 to 18 years out of my 20+ year career. So I'm dedicated to it. I've worked with, different organizations throughout New York, railroads, private entities, government entities like ports like you guys, right to the big players like CSX and Norfolk Southern. I've worked with all of those outfits over the years, so I'm in it. Obviously, we wouldn't be here if we didn't have the technical expertise with rail. As Frank touched on a moment ago, we're multidisciplinary, so if a problem comes our way as we're working on an assignment, can we have the ability to go in-house or at least get the ball rolling to see if we go to a sub or to a minority firm to take on that role as well. Touched on grants a moment ago. Then port experience. I work right now as the engineer for the Port of Oswego, so I'm familiar with the port operations, port logistics, rail, serving the ports as well. So and lastly, program manager expertise. I've assisted Port of Oswego for probably dozen years, I've lost track, administering, grants, finding grants, administering their projects, from start to completion. So, this is really nothing new to me. So I guess with that, we'd love to open it up for questions.
Before we go, I just want to add one other thing. So on these term agreements, the way we like to work, and I think it'll fit very well with your thoughts as well, is we'd like to try to be a natural extension of your staff. So you guys know how to do things, you guys know the specifics of the work that you do and how you do it here. And I think our goal is over time, quickly, to come up to speed on that so that you can turn to us like you would turn to your staff for assignments or for work and feel like you're getting the same kind of attention. One of the ways we often get questioned is, well, you guys are just a big firm. And that's true. We are a big firm in terms of resources, in terms of skill sets, in terms of technical expertise and abilities. There's no question about that. Well, we like to think of ourselves as a small firm, and I live this every day with clients and other tenant meetings. We like to think of ourselves as a small firm when it comes to attention, and that's really what I'm talking about. Attention to your projects, attention to you, and a natural extension of your staff. It'll take a little bit to get there, I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna take a little bit. We need to learn a little bit about how you do things and why you do things the way you do. But that's our goal, is to match up so that you turn to us as you would turn to your staff first. So we'll take any further questions.
Anyone? How much do you know about us and our rail?
Well, let me start. I know this, I'm not a railroad engineer, but I do know this, that you have a line, short line from Norwood, right, to here that you own. So the ownership of that piece of infrastructure, that asset is yours. It's leased, I think, by Vermont Rail, right? And so I assume there's some kind of agreements between you and them about what their responsibilities are, what your responsibilities are. I don't know what those are, but that's probably a good area for us to focus on initially, right? And then advise and consult with you on your responsibilities versus theirs. So that's what I know. Probably may know a bit more.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head for that question, Frank.
So you mentioned, Carl, that you did some work at the Port of Oswego. Their line runs into CSX in Syracuse, is that right?
That's correct.
See, what you know about us and what we know about that line is trying to understand the bridges that our line crosses and the issues we have up here. If you knew what they were like, maybe you've worked on those down around the Syracuse area. I'm trying to think of what rivers that line crosses from Oswego to Syracuse.
They're coming up the Fulton secondary. They're not crossing. Comes out of Liverpool.
Again, do they cross anything
I don't
around?
think they cross anything.
And CSX operates that line, right?
Yeah, CSX serves the port up to their
Right,
local yard and they switch themselves.
right. Unlike us,
Right.
they don't own the line.
Correct.
CSX comes up.
Mhm.
So you're dealing with CSX. How has that gone?
Well.
I think we all know, well, some of us are well aware of the issues
Yeah,
some of us have had with CSX.
yeah, that can be rough at times. For a few years, I actually didn't work at CNS for about a 4-year stint. I left and went to another consulting firm where I actually did a lot of work as a term engineering consultant for CSX.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of work on their main line, on their infrastructure, dealing with, the folks that you can never find. I'm not kidding. You can't find these folks. Or if you can't find them, you're not gonna get a hold. So I've had, I know some of the inside workings of CSX. I do have some of the inside connections or, understanding of how to find those folks. Even so, they can be difficult to work with, but there is a way to work with them. It's all in the approach. That's what I really learned, coming back to CNS and working again, for the board, working for the clients that are not CSX. They're served by them or served by other railroads. There's a way to get things done. You have a plan, almost up front with your project to have them involved, at least from a standpoint of awareness. So you don't come to them at the end and think you're gonna get a quick approval or a nod. It's
Not likely, eh?
No, so, keep them in the loop, early. I wouldn't say necessarily often, but just, so they're not surprised at the last moment.
Right.
And generally it works out, but, railroad, they ultimately.
We all know, yeah.
A lot of leverage.
Yes.
Yeah,
So Frank, have you worked with New York State DOT a lot?
A lot. New York State DOT, probably almost every single county in New York State in some capacity. We're doing work in the North Country here. We're doing work in Lewis County.
You have the IDA line, runs up through Carthage and
Starlight,
Starlight.
Benson Mines. No, I believe that was, the idea went with another firm.
Oh,
It doesn't.
yeah, I'm familiar with that.
you are?
Yeah, that was being pursued by St. Lawrence County IDA.
Yes,
And then, Genesee Valley Lines.
yes, yep,
And signed over ownership to it and swept in and
yeah,
said, thank you for the money and took over.
yeah, something like that.
Well, keep it short and brief, I guess.
But having prior experience in some kind of relationship with New York State DOT, I think is pretty important.
It helps. There's no question that, just like CSX, they carry a lot of weight, right? And especially where there is a situation where there's a rail line and a DOT project, we try to work together, and it helps that we have good experience with DOT. And I'll give you a perfect example. So we're involved in the I-81 project, Syracuse, right? So you can imagine there is is it CSX there as well, or
There's two rail lines.
two rail lines that come off of that,
Right.
right in the areas where they're looking to make improvements. So the rail, even though we're under contract with New York State DOT,
Mhm.
CSX has approached us and said, hey, we'd also like you to work with us. So it's a fine line that we walk. But the reason they approached us is because of our association with DOT and the opposite one.
Okay.
So you're right, there is a distinct advantage having that client pool.
Sorry, correct.
No.
And NYSW.
And well,
Oh, okay.
there's a
Okay.
railroad.
Yeah, NYSW is a local regional line from New Jersey to Syracuse, Binghamton. And they engaged us to help them with all the rail needs to do.
So for us, anybody else can join in. I don't want to dominate all this. But for us, our port is huge. It happens to be my favorite part of the authority, just so you know. Because it's such a huge amount of revenue for us. So that connection, and I guess you've had experience with the Port of Oswego. We're a little bit different because of our port, maybe the amount of space we have and everything else. But our rail line, my opinion, it needs work so that it's easier for us to get either material in or out. Again, looking at the bridges we have that cross the Racket
In the grass.
in the grass, onto Norwood. I'm always looking at how can we drop our overall cost of what we do at the port, and how can we make the line better. So, I mean, do you look at that sort of aspect of working with us on 5, 10 years down the line, what we should be doing in 2023, so that in 2030, we're able to do different things.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we're capable of doing that we've done in the past. You know, I'm a bridge engineer by trade and education. You probably saw in our response, you know, I do annual inspections
Mhm.
of over 200 bridges every year for the NYSW. And we're looking at, you know, obviously, you know, make sure bridges are safe on an annual basis, but at the same time, we're looking to see, you know, what can they program in for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, and give them, you know, two lists of actions, you know, immediate actions you gotta correct now, you know, stay safe. And the second one, hey guys, better think about these coming down the line. But in this case, you know, if you want to increase, you know, the usage of the line, and you be able to look at, you know, load capacities of bridges.
Okay.
A lot of railroads are running what they call 286 K capacity, which is essentially a coal car loaded.
Right.
Everybody that's trying to visualize that load, 286K is 286,000 pounds. So, you know, a lot of bridges were built 100 years ago,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah.
They were not built for that load in mind. Can they handle it? Most of them, yeah, they can handle it, but you get the trusses or some of the more petite steel structures or H steel structures, and you know, there might need to be some work done to strengthen select members or to really see what needs to be done to strengthen it. By no means you need to go through and necessarily rip the bridge down and start over. There's even trusses, there's ways to strengthen, you know, select members to bring it up to what you want to handle on the line. Again, you know, we're familiar with that. I'm personally familiar with that. You know, through the inspection process, right through, you know, the planning and the cost estimating and, you know, figuring out, you know, what can we get done immediately to, you know, maybe get the line open and then to progress it to the point of repair or state of use that you want to achieve, you know, for it to not have to be something you have to, you know, look at every year or spend money on every year for the next however long. So I guess long answer short, that's something we can do.
And I'll just add one thing. So from a pure consulting point of view, right? We always look at the legislation in place, both at the federal level and state level. You're familiar with the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs, IIJA. So we're looking at that now. We haven't seen the flow of money out of Washington yet for that. I don't know if you guys have any views on that, but we're watching that carefully. So to your question, as programs emerge from that match up with asset management programs that might help your rail system, we'll marry the two together. And we've done that in a pure consulting.
I don't know you guys. This is the first I've had you come up and talk in front of us. Your firm, what would you say? How would other clients describe you?
That's a great question. So they would put us on a pedestal and I think what other clients would say about us is that, and this is the hallmark of our firm, is our culture is very much, I'll say technically solid, but very much interpersonal, interacting with clients, communicating with clients. You know, a lot of people think of engineers and scientists and then they run as fast as they can to get away. Right? And I only say that because I am one as well, but we like, one of the competitive advantages we feel we bring to the marketplace is a good means of communication. So acting like we know what we want to say to you and we are willing to say it to you, good, bad, or indifferent. It's a communication, and that's the culture of the firm. So our clients, that's what our clients would say, that technically we're proficient, but we bring the other arm, which not everybody brings, where we like to communicate, we like to stay close, we like to find out where you perceive value and how we perceive value, and have open dialogue. I think that's what you would hear.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Megan.
Are most of your relationships with your clients short-term and like project-based, or are they long-term, like overall getting a general strategy and
I
basically
think
walking
it
it through?
depends on the client sector, so let me give you an example. I can tell you in transportation, most, if not all, are long-term relationships because they really have to be, right? New York State DOT has to be that long-term relationship. In fact, to break into the DOT market with just a one-off project somewhere, you'll never get it. So you need to have years of experience to be able to submit under their electronic scoring selection. So that's DOT. The counties, kind of the same way. County folks like to know and like to feel like when they turn a project over to you, you're taking a burden off of them so they can do what they like and you can do what you need to do on their behalf. So I'd say that those are long-term. The short-term ones, and we do have a couple one-off projects, these are like developers, right? Land developers. So we've had many land developers, they shop services, right? Their idea of value is different maybe than yours. Their idea of value from their perception is, give me the right to build tomorrow. I want to put up a 7-Eleven, I want to put a shopping mall, I want to put up a 40-unit subdivision. I need to start tomorrow. And what is your price for that? So those tend to be the areas where we can do the work if we have to. We don't like it because it's just kind of, here today, gone tomorrow. So we have a few like that. But I would say most of our public sector work, or most of our authority work, or most of our, I'm thinking like water, wastewater, those are all relationships that carry on over time through many different successors that lead those organizations.
Nicole?
I was just going to ask in relationship to communication. So if we were to select you based on your previous experience with clients that you already have, after you do your initial analysis and some engineering plans and work was in progress, how would you go about communicating with either the staff or the board on a regular basis based on how you communicate with your current clients? And then a follow up about labor, like where do you get your laborers from? Are they local crews? Do they travel in and out? Just those kinds of things, some of the semantics around that.
So we kind of have a process for communication. So if we start a project, depending upon the client and what they want to do, we have weekly status reports that are written and transmitted. And then at certain project milestones, depending upon the assignment and the project, we would come up and meet with you. We would sit across the table, explain the project, explain where we are, explain where we need to go. But definitely you would get a written piece of correspondence as a status report. And I think I said weekly, some of them are monthly. It's whatever you want, right? I mean, that's what we can do. That's what we have done. As far as labor, it's a talent war right now. And you know that. Right? I mean,
Labor and supplies shortage, right?
Right now, we have a number of openings across our entire firm. But I can tell you in transportation, we have an immediate need for 2 highway engineers, 2 bridge engineers, some construction inspectors, and maybe even some rail people as well. So we are on the hunt. And guess what though? So is everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So it's a real challenge. But, and you see that, I see it everywhere I go. Like with Dunkin' Donuts, I used to be able to fly to Dunkin' Donuts, get my coffee and go. No, I'm waiting in line for a half hour. Why? Because they can't find people. I can't stand it. But anyway, does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
You want to add?
Subcontractors. Did I see that somewhere?
Yeah. It's a,
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail?
so, well, I'll let you,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We listed a number of, I guess, consultants, subcontractors, really to fulfill the minority goals, roles for each of the projects. or, you know, if we needed additional help to get, you know, a project to a certain milestone or a certain delivery date, or we just didn't have, you know, enough staff, and we could lean on them. All the firms listed in there are firms that we have worked with numerous times in the past, or have, you know, outstanding relationships with. And they cover, you know, pretty much everything that we can do, they can do as well. So, you know, if there's entirely a track project, you know, there's a WBE firm listed in that list that could help us with the track project if there's nothing else to give out, to either meet goals or to meet deadline or schedule. So
Just a side note to that, what is your firm doing as far as getting young people or people out of college into the transportation business? And it relates to minorities and disadvantaged. But you know, we've had discussions about that, and that we need to recruit. I mean, you know, we're in the transportation business, and so are you. You know, you directly can affect that by the people you hire out of college, and giving, you know, not just everybody, but experience either as interns and getting them introduced to it. They may not end up with you, but we need those people. You know, you talk about that. What do you do internally to kind of answer that?
There's a couple things that we do religiously. Every year we hire probably 20 interns across the board from many different schools, at least 20. And here's the thing, in the days of old, when it wasn't so demanding to find the right talent, you know, we would just do it, and we put them through the experience, we'd coach them, we'd mentor them, and then maybe they'd go on their way, right? Nowadays, it's totally different. So if we can get them to intern with us, okay, because they have choices, right? If we can get them to intern with us, we mentor them, and we usually, in I'll say 75% of the cases, there's an offer letter before they leave. It's the only way that we're going to be able to recruit effectively. Now, it's not automatic. I mean, it has to be the right mix, the right skill sets, and the right aptitude to learn, right? The other thing we do, which is a bit unique and novel, is that we're involved with, at least in the central New York region right now, heavily with the STEAM school initiatives. So high school level students that show an aptitude and an interest in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math.
You got it. You got it.
So high school students that show that, so we kind of trail them and dog them too. But we do it by the actual work that we're performing at the STEAM school. So like in Syracuse, new STEAM school being renovated, we are the construction manager. So the kids that are attending there or thinking about attending there, we might put them under our wing and actually watch what we do at that time. So there's two initiatives.
Very good.
Because it is an unprecedented time to try to find good candidates, not like when us old guys were coming up through and it was like, you know, find a way to stand out.
One other thing, and it's kind of maybe how you're organized, but say we give you a contract for construction inspection. Explain to me the difference of what you need. Construction inspection, but you also need quality control. I'm just speaking for everybody so you understand that. How do you keep me from hiring another firm? I mean, what do you do internally that keeps those two apart so that, you know, they're not both in cahoots if there's a problem? And I'm not suggesting anything, but the other end of it is I don't want a clash either with an outside firm. Sometimes I enjoy, if you've got a separation, I'm not telling you how you do it, but if you've got a separation between those two, and I feel comfortable with that, I'm more apt to recommend that because I feel, in my experience, it works out better. But if there's really blurred lines there that I'm not sure I'm going to get a good job, I do know we've had trouble with our end meeting DOT standards years back, and it all fell on the engineering firm that they didn't do a lot of certifications. You know, you needed certs for like that, and it was a bad experience. And it didn't go away. So, you know, maybe you can address to the board a little bit how you work that.
So I would say a couple things on that. Construction is where the kind of the rubber meets the road, right? So you can have the best design and go out, and if you don't have a competent inspector or somebody that can take charge of the job and make judgment calls in the field, because no design is perfect, but make the right judgment calls, keeping to what you said, Steve, keeping the client informed, but also making sure that there's not overruns or extensive underruns. It's a critical, we view it as a very critical piece, more so than design. We want the right person there. So when we look at our inspectors, there's various nice levels of certification, right? So depending upon the project and the need, they have to have that certification. But more than that, we interview them extensively because we don't want them sleeping in their car during the project, right? We also don't want them being what I would call a royal pain in the neck either, right? So there's a delicate balance. So it's very difficult. I'm not going to say we have that perfect yet, but we're sensitized to it and we're aware of it. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, as the owner, as you all know, that whenever there's mistakes, the owner pays. And everybody knows that. It's just when there's even though, you know, but generally if there's a mistake, the engineering firm isn't going to come up and say, you know, we'll pay for the overrun or anything like that. It all falls onto the owner. So for me, it's very important that I understand, you know, where you're coming from so that someone isn't just protecting, and nothing on you, but we aren't protecting just the engineer from a poor design and that, and you realize that, but it's something that I've always seen that, and they haven't been major, but generally speaking, and it's just a, you know, I'm not always right, but usually the owner that ends up paying.
Let me add this. I think you're right. We have within our transportation group, a construction inspection group. So it's a whole nother separate group with a whole series of protocols and procedures and processes. So we take that very seriously. We don't just take a designer and throw them out the field. I can't do your question any more justice than what I said, but I'm aware of it. But I can tell you this, the fact that we have a separate group that's focused on that tells me that they've run into that before and that that's an issue.
So, but in a chain of command, does that group totally separate, whoever's running that? And I've seen, and it's a good thing, when you have inspection versus quality control and they disagree with something, but you don't have one overriding the, you know, if you've got one boss up for both of those, it doesn't work. So you need, and I'm not telling, but that's something that I want to understand.
Right now, there's one boss over the two, but both gentlemen are responsible for their groups.
Okay.
Completely.
Okay.
So I would be responsible from the design side. I'd be engaged in the construction, but more from a question and answer standpoint. Our other gentleman, Chuck Stanton, would be responsible for, you know, the construction inspectors. And he'd be the first one that they would report to if there was an issue. He wouldn't be coming to me necessarily saying, hey, how do I fix this? How to make this go away? It's going to go to Chuck and then laterally back to me. Back to Chuck.
Or you may be working it out between you.
Right, we're working on it internally, but it's not going to go back to me and have that, you know, concern of, am I just going to bury it or sweep it under the.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
It's a good question. It's a tough question.
I know.
I think it's all about scrutinizing the right people and making sure they understand what they need to do, no matter who the designer is, whether it's us or somebody else. Right?
A lot of our construction projects do get audited by the state, so having that separation and having, you know, the group broken out that way, you know, with them focused strictly on, you know, the construction inspection procedures and everything, you know, makes those auditing processes much easier because they've got all their paperwork in order. They've got all those issues hopefully resolved, and that, you know, the auditors, when they come in, it's a nice, easy review, and maybe they find a couple little things you've got to dot I here, cross the T there, but not gonna find wholesale, problems, on top of what, could have gotten covered up during construction that you're noticing.
Yeah, so, if the board were to select you, Carl, you'd be the guy that I'd call about something on a level that's frustrating me or anything like that. Okay,
You got
good, thank you.
cell phones on and. I worked on a term assignment with Class 1 railroads, my phone was on 24/7.
So we call Carl to complain, call me with real good stuff.
There you go. Anything else, anybody? Anyone?
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll just say in closing, we would really like to work with you guys. And I think once we get our feet wet a little bit, you'll like working with us.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Not anymore.
I like the cheerleading. It is.
I know.
It is.
Would you like a copy of the presentation?
Absolutely.
Sure,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Definitely.
Thank you so
I should have probably passed those out.
I know. I'll-
But then nobody pays attention. Right?
much. Thank you.
That's true. That's an old teacher's trick. isn't it?
I wouldn't have meant it quite so hard. No, I.
Oh, you didn't get one, eh?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Dad.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
Our pleasure. Thanks.
Did you hear any of that?
Syracuse.
So you heard a little bit. Do you have any questions, Dave, even though they're gone, so?
I have no questions. I just caught the tail end of it. Thanks for letting me in.
Okay. All right. What's the story on the other farm? Oh,
I'm gonna move. Is that okay if I move? Yes, I can see.
you can do whatever you want.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of a visual person. I would like to- Thank you. You knew I wanted to look at that too. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Let's need a few more minutes to fill things out.
Do we have to fill those?
No.
That'd be a quiz.
Is this my notes?
Yeah, it is.
I was like,
No.
can't handle any more report
You're
today,
good.
guys. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You're good. You're good. Don't fill out any more paperwork.
And I just asked where we are on the agenda. Are we getting reports or something?
For some of your presentations,
Okay.
that was CSX.
See you now.
I'm sorry. Jeez, I got CSX.
We got the big dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, now we're gonna do the Erdman Anthony.
Okay, thank you.
I had enough issues with CSX. Yeah. No, you don't need anything. Why would you hurry?
Yeah.
Questions
I
asked.
was gonna say, the whole scoring thing is,
Well,
I'll tell you what my gut call is. That's what I-
Well, in the end.
Yeah,
Hi
exactly.
there. How are you?
Dennis had an issue coming up, you almost hit a deer and
Yeah.
flew off.
Oh, oh, no. Of course, yeah.
Of course.
Did you hit the deer?
No.
Oh, that's
Good.
awful.
Put her down way, yeah.
Just.
Careful there,
And
too.
it just cost your laptop.
Yeah.
One of my teachers said, "Oh, we just-"
What was Dennis?
Yes. That is the last.
It's horrible. Got my paperwork out.
Did you get that, Anne Marie, or? I'm working on it, eh? Okay. Did you come up from Syracuse? Oh, Rochester. Wow, thank you for coming.
I'm here to introduce. Okay. Oh, great.
So, Tim's, I guess,
Is it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, should I go down there?
you can stay right, because the camera's
Oh,
on
okay.
right there, so you don't send the slide or whatever you need.
Can Dave see this? Okay. Dave, you good?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it's all yours.
So just put together a quick PowerPoint slide presentation, basically just to keep me on track. And to digress, and I could talk about one of these projects for half an hour, so I don't want to take up too much time, but yeah, I guess to get things started off, thank you for being out here. Been a long time coming, I think, to get up here and meet everybody. So I guess we'll go to the next slide. Let's start off with the firm overview. We did not present any sub-consultants or subcontractors on this, so it would be Urban Anthony. As far as the qualifications process, it's the performance of work, other than the exception of MWB requirements or DB requirements, depending on the funding mechanisms.
That would be your sub-consultants?
Right. So I'll speak to that later.
Okay.
That would be on a case-by-case basis. But coming into the project, we're essentially able to handle anything, we anticipate project-wise, just as a firm. So we didn't bring anybody else on board. So just a brief history of Urban Anthony. It was a firm was founded in 1954 in Rochester, New York. Our headquarters is still there. We are 100% employee owned. So it's essentially through an ESOP program where after a year, every employee gets to purchase into the company. So rather than, being part of a large corporation, we're a New York State corporation, but we're essentially employee owned. Yeah, this is just going to scroll through some of the service areas. So our company is essentially split into 5 different main service areas. Transportation engineering, which includes rail, highways, bridges. Civil engineering, which is site development and utilities mostly. Geospatial, which is essentially survey and mapping. Facilities engineering, which is mechanical, plumbing, fire protection, and that sort for anything building related. And then construction phase services, construction observation, essentially. Our team that we presented for this, it's me over on the left. I'm again Dennis Elias. I'm the rail services leader. I've been with the company for 22 years now. So it's been a good run so far. Some of these other people that we've got shown up on the board there. Next one over is Jack Madden. He's also a licensed professional engineer. Jack has quite a varied work history. He started off in the Transportation Corps in the Army, transitioned to working for Conrail, a Class 1 railroad. And then after 15 years with Conrail, he ended up going to New York State DOT, where he spent, I believe, 17 years as a team leader at the Freight and Passenger Rail Bureau. So essentially the types of projects that would be funded by railroads through New York State DOT, he was in charge of. So he's been with us since he retired from DOT in 2016. So, yeah, a little over 6 years now. And then some other people that we have shown up there. Rob Schiller is next. He's been with the company for about 13 years. Handles mostly anything highway related, alignment related, grade crossings, that type of work. Amy Blackman has been with us for about 6 years, has 10 years of experience total. She would handle anything site improvement related, any core projects. And then lastly is, yeah, they're kind of covered up on the screen. He's the new person, Jordan Lindeman. He's been out of school for about 2 years, so he handled a lot of the nuts and bolts type work with the projects and more day to day. So that's essentially our core team that we have involved on these any projects that you might have. Depending on the discipline, we did present some other people in our falls package. As far as the facility side of things, if they did have to be a building type improvement, we do have mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection engineering in-house, so anything of that sort we do. Next slide, please. So I guess I'll touch on project experience next. Put together the slide, just the projects that we've done in St. Lawrence County over the past 10 years. So it turned out the list was pretty big. I thought that we've worked on 11 projects in the county that are just rail related. So we've got a list of those. They're the ones in green are the ones that have been completed. So one of the first ones we started was at the Messina Industrial Park. That was to bring rail access to the industrial park. And it took a while, but we got there. We went through a few different iterations. In the middle of the project, CSX Transportation decided that they wanted to build new siding and expand their yard there, which kind of threw things out of whack. But in the end, we worked through it. And the project, the first phase, which was construction of the track, I believe was completed about 2016. And then the second phase involved improving the transload site with a concrete pad. That's what essentially the main goal was to provide a place to unload a telephone for National Grid. So those are the first two projects, and some of the other ones you can scroll through the list. But the New Falls Branch rehabilitation, that one we'll touch on later. That was also St. Lawrence County IDA. And then OBPA, we ended up helping the authority last year with a small task related to the grant application for New York State DOT grant funding. So we'll touch on that one later as well. And some of the current projects, the first two are also with St. Lawrence County IDA, and they're industrial type projects, but that we assisted them with the scoping and obtaining New York State DOT grant funding as well. So those are the Natural Dam Industrial Track Reactivation Project with Dunn Paper and Governor, and then the Alcoa Track and Grade Crossing Radar Project in Messina. So those will be getting kicked off with the IDA as soon as we get the grant agreements back. So those will be on a similar schedule and for feedback project, obviously. The next two were for the New York and Ogdensburg. So on your authority-owned rail line, the next one is the Norfolk Branch, Norfolk. Keep having to correct myself on that one. The Branch Rehabilitation 286K upgrade project and the 256 project. We've got some additional slides on here, so I'll just pass those. And the final one is the Benson Mines Rail Access. That one's also in connection with the Newton Falls Branch Rehab project. But it's a project that's stalled because the big development there hasn't happened yet. So we've kind of put the brakes on that project until we see what transpose is there. So going through some of the projects, the specifics. The first one is the M&N Railroad Newton Falls Branch Rehab that I mentioned before. So for that one, we handle essentially everything from preliminary engineering through construction, inspection, and observation. That was a large project funded by 3 different funding mechanisms. It involved basically reactivation of 46 miles of track that had been dormant for, I believe it's 14 years when we began work on it. So the total rehab of 46 miles of track, reconstruction of 28 private crossings and 12 public grade crossings. And it was, because it was so large, it was constructed in 3 phases. The first was essentially getting the line opened up, cleared, because brush and trees had overtaken everything, and the engineering. The second phase was the majority of the track rehab work. And then the last phase, which was just completed last week, was reconstruction of 10 public grade crossings. So that total project cost is roughly $11.3 million, spread out from 2000 14 to this year. So yeah, quite a project in the making, but we're getting there. Next slide, please. And the next one, again, getting on the authority's property, we've got New York and Ogdensburg Railway. We assisted them with a project to scope repairs to grade crossings on the system. So the intent was really to hit some of the hardest crossings that were on the, on Norfolk Branch, but we did also look at several on the Ogdensburg Branch. So we ended up selecting 5 that were in the worst condition and prepared preliminary cost estimates for them and assisted the NIAG with a funding application. Of those, 1 was selected for Section 130 funding, and that's the Route 56 crossing in Norfolk. There's a picture there, not the best shape. It's a concrete type crossing, but the frost, heat, and salt damage has done its work, and it'll be in much worse condition probably within the next couple of years if nothing's addressed. So that was pretty high on the priority list. So the intent there is to begin work on that next year once the grant agreement is in place, and the scope of that is essentially reconstruction of the precast concrete crossing because it's ideal for such heavy truck traffic, and then installation of new flashing lights and gates. So that'd be a safety improvement over what's there. Right now, it's just the crosswalks and it's a stop protection. So again, that'll hopefully get underway next year and be completed next year or in 2024, depending on the lead times for materials. Slide, please. And this is another project that we did with the NIAG. It's their 286K upgrade project on the Norfolk Branch. So with their significant amount of propane traffic that they've had going out there the past couple of years, that's really hampered their operations, only being able to bring up 1 to 2 cars at a time. And they're smaller cars than the industry standard now. So we assisted them with scoping of a project back in 2021 to essentially rehab the line in its entirety and bring it up to new 286,000 pound car standards. So we prepared the funding application. We're successful in that, and we're just waiting on DOT to get moving on that project as well. Again, construction, we're hoping to get underway in 2023 and complete in 2024. But lead time and materials and whatnot will probably be an issue on that project as well. And the next one is your project. So the Brady terminal improvements, like I mentioned, we did help with essentially scoping the project, preparing cost estimates, doing the benefit cost analysis, and assisting with grant writing for the PGRAP application last year. And that project entails replacement of about 1,300 feet of track on the wharf. It's embedded in asphalt. It's in pretty difficult shape. So
You're being kind.
right. So yeah, roughly 1,300 feet of track, 1 turnout, and then it also includes improvements to the P2 building. So replacement of the roof and some, I believe, 2 overhead doors.
Correct.
Scoping it out. And again, construction, it's dependence on when New York State DOT will execute the grant agreements and how quickly things can get underway. And that project, it was scoped at roughly $1.3 million for the construction cost. The next slide here deals with kind of all the nuts and bolts with state and federally that could be involved in these types of projects. So we just picked the 3 main ones that we've used for funding projects in New York. The obvious one, New York State DOT Passenger Freight Rail Systems Program. Multimodal is a similar program that New York State runs. And the Section 130, which is specific to grade crossings. So those 3 are, New York State's essential funding mechanisms for rail projects. And going through some of the specifics, as far as the application type, or the, there is no minimum match requirement. on those projects, but realistically, a 10 to 15% match is expected unless it's, a very small and needs-based project. The funds originate as state, except for Section 130, which is federal aid that's given to New York State to kind of distribute. One of the big concerns there with that type of funding and the funding New York State funding is the minority and women-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses. So we're very familiar with those requirements. We understand how to work through all the requirements and make sure that all the bases are covered. So when we get to construction, especially, that's quite a hurdle usually, but we've been through it and more. So I guess depending on down the list here, I mean, as far as those types of projects, and again, I looked at the list and I was kind of surprised. We've done 48 of those New York State DOT PFRAP or Section 130 projects over the past decade. So we definitely know the ins and outs of the requirements for that type of funding.
So you seem like you know us, right? You already know what some of our issues are, and that you have experience dealing with New York State DOT when it comes to rail. Do you know us enough to come and say, we know what you have, we know what's important to the authority. To me, it's improving as much as we can the port and the rail line. Can we ask you a question regarding improvements we should make 5 and 10 years down the line? Are you that familiar with us?
We're getting there. We are familiar enough. I mean, Jack knows the line better than I do. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. But just in our work that we've been doing with the New York and Ogdensburg, it's, we're getting that much more familiar with it, but we're not quite to that point where, we consider ourselves experts in any sort on it. But as far as basic understanding of the port and rail infrastructure, yes, we have a pretty good handle on that. In time, I think, we'd definitely be able to turn that around, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we do is and we've helped St. Lawrence County IDA and a lot of industries in the county essentially do the same thing. Where they come to us with a need. Sometimes they don't even know what the resolution is.
Right.
And we work with them on the appropriate way of solving the problem and then help them find the funding for it. Okay. So, a lot of the times, I think I mentioned this to Steve, with St. Lawrence County especially, it's difficult to come up with that local match. Everyone's kind of been in a difficult financial position over the past couple of years. So, we helped a lot of the industries and, the EDC essentially bring down their match to nothing by being able to combine the funding. It takes a little bit more time, so something that's more pressing probably couldn't be handled that way. But we've had success with it. Kind of whittling down it, start with one big funding source and then kind of add to it. So it does tend to draw out projects, but that is something to consider. So kind of familiar with the port's financial situation with COVID and whatnot. That might be something worth considering. That your PFRAP project you could potentially use as a springboard for other funding for federal aid and for different forms of state aid as match to help reduce the authority's match.
Good.
So
Patty likes that.
We all.
That's
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but you're at the point where I had to ask questions.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, feel free to anytime, any questions. Again, just cover a couple of these other funding sources, the FRA, Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Funding. That's a fund source that's been around for probably 6 or 7 years. And there are a couple of new ones that have been coming out that are similar to it. But again, you could use those as match funding for New York State DOT or vice versa. That one does come with DBE requirements that do apply to public entities. They don't apply to common carrier railroads, but they do apply to the Port Authority. Requirements and all sorts of good federal stuff that we have to deal with that type of funding source. So that one, again, we've completed 5 of those Chrissy projects. One of them was the Newton Falls Bridge project, the 10 grade crossings. That was funded by Chrissy with kind of leftover funding from members, data development for the first 2 phases. And the last one, the NBRC EID funding. That's one.
Can you say what NBRC is?
Oh, yeah.
Just so everyone- You see it in the paper a lot.
Sure, yes, the Northern Border Regional Commission, it's a federal agency that I believe was authorized with the 2008 Farm Bill. And they've been offering funding for project improvements since 2010. So that with that first year of funding, we did help the Messina DEC obtain NBRC grant funding for their project. And then St. Lawrence County IDA for the Great Crossings again. Just kind of use that to help reduce the match and make up for shortfalls.
We haven't had much luck with that, even though I felt we've submitted some pretty strong applications over the years. Is that something you know well enough that you think you could turn the tide for us on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man, we did it for the on paper project, the IDA.
Natural, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, this last round, we did win, I think it was 400,000 in funding for them. So that covered the match on their previously awarded state grant funds. So, yeah, very familiar with that funding source and yeah, out of a lot of the federal aid, it's probably the simplest to approach and has the least strings attached. So we kind of try to steer people towards that one first. So kind of a unique situation in the North Country where we need to access that where other parts of the state.
We need to do better with that. So that would be something I would be looking for.
Okay. And again, every month it seems a new federal or state opportunity comes up, and a lot of them are a good fit for rail or or the PNG for port funding. So there are so many possibilities to list. I didn't want to burden you with all that, but yeah, next slide, please. Oh, and that's it. Yeah. So longer than
You gotta
I
really
planned,
start.
but like I said, if there are any questions, anything else that's come up that.
Well, you answered the concern I had regarding your relationship with New York State DOT. You obviously have someone on staff who's worked for them for a number of years. I'm sure he knows the ins and outs. And there's different projects that your firm has done, shows me that. Did you say the culture of your firm is that you're very open to diversity?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we definitely practice what we preach, and we know the importance of not only meeting the MWB requirements specifically, but as far as our staff, we make every effort to have a diverse work environment, and it's always at the forefront. So. Yeah,
That's good. And you obviously have the port experience. You understand, I think, what I'm looking for is dropping the cost of having someone come in and utilize our port so that, we're more competitive than we are now. In my opinion, I'm not speaking for the board, in my opinion, we need to use more rail. And how we do that in the future, because I think the rail component, if we can ever get along with CSX, should drop, again, what we charge at the port. And rail, unfortunately, in the last 20 years or more, we haven't focused as much on it as I feel we should. So if we hire your firm, you may be all right with the rest of the board, but I could be a pain in your backside.
Sure, sorry.
Just to let you know.
He makes it a varsity sport.
There you go. So thank you. Anyone have any questions?
I just have one. It's great that you have such a footprint in the North Country already. That's great to see, and you have experience here. Do you foresee that being a challenge as you move forward if we were to choose you, knowing that with labor shortage and supply shortage and being spread throughout the North Country, do you see that getting in the way or becoming a barrier?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, I think if anything, having so many projects that are local, I think will actually help because honestly, we do a lot of traveling and most of my business is traveling. So to make one trip to the North Country and cover five projects versus 6, it really isn't that different. So I much prefer that to, traveling out of state.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, as far as being here, we've been working in the North Country and St. Lawrence County specifically for a long time, and we've, kept a decent number of projects going where we kind of take advantage of that and help reduce costs too, because rather than making 3 separate trips, we can make one trip and kill 3 birds with one stone. That definitely helps things too.
Good.
And one more question just about communication. So for like a long-term project, what is the communication between yourself and like the staff, like Steve or James? Like what would that look like on a regular or not regular basis?
Well, I be the central point of communication, and we have other people that are available. I kind of like to funnel everything through myself just to keep that single point of contact on our end. And as far as it's your end, if it really comes down to what you're looking for. I mean, I think I tend to be a little bit annoying with, reaching out to people and trying to keep things moving along. So, if it means, we have 2 or 3 people in the mix on the authority side and we're able to make that work. It's whatever you want. But on our end, I definitely would be the only person that you'd have to.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of onto her question though. Can you be a little more specific on what kind of support? If we're small, with a small staff, we do rely on our consultants a lot to handle things. They introduce us to processes and things that you've got to do in order to get your funding, and we become aware of that. But some of it we really aren't immersed in.
Sure.
I'm sure you do, but what can you tell us that kind of enhances our staff with the people that you have?
Yeah, and I guess as far as helping shepherd you through a lot of the process, and that's definitely something that we would, look to do, knowing that everyone is not totally in tune with every kind of funding requirement and paperwork and whatnot. Our approach would be prepare everything for you. So basically just need to sign.
That's what I want to hear.
So we're used to that.
Just
Good job.
plenty of tags. Sign here, and I go, that looks good.
Right.
No.
I mean, we could do as much or as little as you're looking for. Some of our clients would rather be more hands-on, others are completely hands-off, and that's.
Well, and as you go along, there's things that we may, different projects, we may say, well, at this point, we're good with that. And then others, we may say, we don't have the time or the staff to take care of that and ask you to handle that.
Sure. Yeah, definitely, we can be flexible. Things change too.
And one other kind of related to some of Sam's thing, what are you, with staff shortage and stuff, what does the company have as a policy for bringing young people and diverse backgrounds into the transportation field? Can you speak to a little bit of that maybe EA is doing?
Sure, yeah, that in our, I guess, in our company, it's a little unique that most of the people have been around for quite a while. And I'm one of the new people with 22 years. We've had people, somebody just retired 2 years ago with 49 years with the company. So, Jordan is probably our newest hire, and he was a co-op with us for 2 years, and then 2 years, and he has 2 years of experience now. But other than that, the majority of people, tend to stay. We haven't had a lot of turnover through COVID and whatnot, and we're holding steady. And our workload has been steady, so we haven't really needed to staff up. with, you know, a lot of work that we anticipate. It all comes down to kind of being selected too with the projects. You know, we try to develop clients and the type of work that we know is a good fit, so we don't have to be hiring 3 people and then worrying about
Where they're going next.
finding them work.
Yeah.
So we kind of look to the clients and develop that work and make sure that we can manage it. You know, we don't want to commit to anything that we won't be able to deliver on. So that's essentially where we are. I mean, as far as trying to, you know, bring on additional staff, we do have a program in place where we do bring on summer interns and co-ops, and that's kind of a way that we introduce people to the company and kind of test them out too.
Sure.
So every year we usually have 1 to 2 co-ops that we bring. Some decide to, you know, choose a different career and, you know, that's, you know, a different specialty, but we've had, you know, I started off as a co-op. And probably more than half the people that I've worked with, you know, kind of started the same way. So that's kind of what we do to develop people, but it's not as pressing as might be with some other companies. But we do have that kind of way. So.
Thank you.
Dave, you have any questions?
Nope, you guys have asked them. I've been listening.
It was a test. Anyone else? No? Dennis, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Travel safely.
Yeah.
I think if you turn your music up loud, it scares them away. It's the theory I have.
Yeah, you gotta have your windows down.
Not if you sing loud. That's what I always do.
Okay.
Marie, do we have any more water in the house?
Here, I'll get you one.
No, you don't have to wait on me.
Megan?
Yeah, I'll grab one if you go.
Does anyone else want to?
Yeah, Megan needs one. Anthony? Sam, you good?
Yes.
You need water?
I stopped drinking liquids lately.
Anybody else?
No, thank you. No, thank you. To Poland Spring.
They just want chocolate milk.
Got a fresh batch today.
What's he talking about?
Chocolate milk. All right, let's move on to the committee reports. Facilities Committee.
Okay, yes, Facilities Committee met on September 26th at 5 p.m. We had several items on our agenda. First up was the Ogdensburg Airport. We did receive an update on the Contour Airlines operations. CFO Patty Nisko reported on the turnaround time for reimbursement for Contour's invoice, which is about 3 days. And Stephanie Sirocco just reported that the load factor is slowly increasing. Under the Upstate Airport Economic Development and Revitalization Initiative, the $18 million grant should be fully executed by early November. Next up, under Commerce Park Campus, there was a discussion on the Child Care Initiative. Our Executive Director, Steve Lawrence, reported that he has met with reps from the Empire State Development as well as ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence County to provide information and clarification of the proposed project. If federal funding is received along with funding from the Regional Council, then approximately 75% of the funding would be covered. Under the Ogdensburg Prescott International Bridge, first up was the 2022 biennial bridge inspection. It's taken place and Parsons will be providing us with an executive summary. Border Station pavement evaluation, there was a discussion about the pavement repairs that need to happen and how such work will be financed. Work on this project will likely begin in the spring of 23, as bid prices tend to be a little more competitive in early winter. The meeting did have a need for an executive session for matters relating to section 105 of the open meetings law, and it was fully adjourned about 6:25.
Thank you. Any questions? Megan has the proposed
Pass them along.
blacktopping of the,
Substantial.
yeah.
We did look at moving it in phases, prioritizing.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
huge.
And why is
surface
that?
area.
What was the cost of that?
I can't
You
even
have to
imagine.
1.9 all in.
Hey,
I feel like
that's
I-
it.
Better. Labeled one,
That's it.
basically just to redo a top coat.
Okay.
So he is on.
Oh, gosh,
first
here we go.
one.
Okay.
It was 1.9 mil, right?
So this is the most
Yeah.
hands-on.
Well done, John.
Yes, and that's
Report.
here
Thank you.
where the balance comes out.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Any questions? Dave, any questions?
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. A governance committee. I wasn't here.
Do you
Oh,
want-
That's
Who
right.
did that one?
I was
That's
there.
Tony and Cole, right?
Do you want me to report?
If you could.
I'd be happy to. We met last week on a day. I believe we met last Wednesday, Thursday? Tuesday.
One of the four.
You're doing good. You're doing fine. Go ahead.
We met last Tuesday and topic of discussion was remote attendance policy. It was myself and Ms. Kennedy along with Jennifer. And we looked over a couple of different policies that are being used currently along with examining the legislation that allows for remote meeting attendance. And through that meeting, we were able to draft up a policy that we will be presenting later on in the agenda this evening. And
Yeah.
that's a wrap.
Good.
Okay, great.
Jennifer, anything you would like to add? No.
No, I think it was a really productive meeting, and I think the committee's overall feeling was a wise one to keep it short and to the point.
Great.
Good, yes. Finance committee, Chris isn't here. So Patty, would you like to go over that?
Sorry.
The finance committee met on Monday of last week. We had to postpone the normal last Monday of the month. We went through the financials, which I will highlight on. And next month is our 6 months. So the statements next month will really be looking not only at what we are against the budget, but looking forward toward budgeting for next year, which has to be into the state by December. Shall I go right on into?
Yeah.
Might as well. Yeah.
That's what Chris usually wants.
Just looking at the statement of financial position, our cash reserves, of course, look wonderful right now, but we're still holding on to the funds that were returned to us from the harbor deepening that will be probably reused for the port expansion. And that is our top bank account. The other bank accounts are mostly for the reserve funds to pay down the loans that happen once or twice a year. We have set up 2 new accounts, one of which actually makes the list, the OBPA Aviation Credit Card account. We have decided to keep all of the fuel purchases in their own account so that going forward, we have the money to pay the new fuel bills when they come in without having to wait for an ARPA grant or a CARES Act, which we know is going to be disappearing soon. So we've set up that account, and so far it's working quite well. We have $68,000 at the end of August in our security deposit account. That's up from 27,000. It is now at 92,000. We are getting it back to its full strength. Our regular accounts receivable are at $307,000, which is probably one of the lowest it's been. our funding, our payments are coming in quite quickly. And the largest amount of accounts receivable right now all has to do with the wind turbine project. And that's always just a timing issue. If we move down to our accounts payable, our regular accounts payable was at 990,000 at the end of August. And if you look on the back, almost all of it for the top 5, which made up a majority of the funding, or the accounts payable, has already been paid in full. And we have brought down our e-transit from 101,000 to 59,000. We're on our way to paying that off. That is simply a monthly maintenance fee that comes in. Unfortunately, because they don't yell at us, if somebody else yells louder, they get the money first. But we are trying to get that back in proper order. The other thing we would like to do is get some more training from e-transit. And I hate to ask somebody for training if I haven't paid. So we're working on that. Our New York State retirement was at 94,280 at the end of August. It has been paid off. The 2022 bill has been paid off. Our interest bill was $1,000 less than it was last year. So we're going in the right direction. And we already have almost half of the 2023 bill put aside. So we're getting there. Any questions?
That's great.
Any questions on the statement of financial position?
No. I like it when you give us good news.
Well, we'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it now, like.
Well, we've been very lucky when we budgeted for this year. We assumed 2 windmill projects. We've had 3. We only budgeted a certain amount of salt. We expect to get more salt. So it's not free money, but it's unbudgeted money that we've been able to put toward some of these things to put us in a more solid position. That going forward, we know that some of it won't be as easy, but the base is now getting more solid as we go along.
Yeah, and you as all board members have been with us the last 2.5 years, really immersed in all of that. So there's certain things I go to, but I think you do too, and you appreciate. You need to think of where we were, but Patty's done a remarkable job with that. We're not there yet, but she's done a great job with that, and those extra things that she talks about, she's putting them to good use. So, going into the winter, it's always a tough time, but she's done really well. But I just say to you and Dave too, that you've been here and you know those numbers right there. And in a way, I'm glad you lived it because you understand it.
It doesn't feel like we're white knuckling it so hard,
Right, but I can feel a little bit of a relief
Yeah.
when we talk either to the committee or to the board there that, we're not going to stop, but it's just, we're getting there.
And if we go on to the budget to actual, this is where a lot will change next month, and we'll be talking a lot about budgeting for the upcoming year. Our bridge revenue is up. We are very small steps forward. We're finally getting close to where we had hoped to budget at about 60% of pre-COVID numbers. We're finally getting there. So we are a little bit ahead on bridge revenue. Airport revenue is up a bit. We had really anticipated very little parking revenue and rental car revenue, and we are triple what we had budgeted for last year. So we're happy with that. Our fuel sales, of course, have been up, and it's wonderful. Contour is purchasing fuel. They hadn't anticipated doing it, but they are. And because they had not anticipated it, right now they're paying full retail. So we are making some money on that. If you look down at the fuel sale expense, because we had budgeted so little fuel, we are way above budget there. The difference between our income for the fuel sales and our expense for the fuel sales should be our inventory that's left in the tank. So we're not upset with not being the same because we always do have inventory in the tanks. Our wind turbine income is just more of a timing issue. We had anticipated the projects going out longer, so we were not expecting funds to come in or be billed out as quickly as possible. Down under our expenses, the bridge has been able to maintain some good numbers so that we are under budget for almost every category for salary and then benefits that are tied to the hires. Our director of operations had not been hired at the end of August, and we still have one open position that we have not yet filled. Our airport expenses, of course, the fuel sales is way over budget. We now have a new expense that's listed under general expenses, and that is the alternative EAS. Under regular EAS, SkyWest would have simply billed DOT. Under alternative, Contour bills us. So we pay Contour, then we get the money back. So this is going to skew a lot of things, I think, in the September numbers. I'm going to break that out so that we can see exactly what's Contour and what is normal budgeted activity for the airport under general expenses. It is running us about $420,000 a month to have Contour. But that is fully reimbursable by US DOT. Our industrial park, it looks like we're spending more money on salary, but I only put 5% of my salary in it when I was trying to pick up. We're putting much more of the economic development director salary toward the Commerce Park, which is why it looks a little odd. And then we can see our wind turbine expenses are up, but again, that's a timing issue. Everything else is either pretty much in line or below budget. We have approximately $350,000 left on the ARPA grant for the airport, which we are trying to hold off billing as long as we can because it will be gone probably in January. Any questions?
Jen?
Can I ask a question, just a pondering? Okay, so I know that a lot of things like we get invoiced for, right? And then you bill out. But do we have bills that come in that could get paid via a credit card or a line of credit, a credit card that gets like cash back that we could set aside in some kind of a reserve account?
I am actually looking at changing our credit cards, but we don't tend to use them. At least so far, we're not using them for general expenses.
But if we paid them off in the 30 days and got the cash back, so we weren't charged the interest, but got a 2.5 or 3% back on a month-to-month basis?
It would be worth looking at because then the possibility would be we would charge more than just our, like our online fee to have the webinars and things like that. It is something to look at, and we are looking at new credit cards anyway.
Okay.
Good.
What is the turnaround time with the alternative EAS, like between?
It's supposed to be 3 to 4 days, but this is only our second submission, and it's still a bit over a week. I think
Okay.
getting everybody into what has to be presented, when does it have to be presented, and how fast it can turn around. But we've heard from other airports that once you get
Okay.
in the swing, it's less than a week.
Isn't there a credit card policy in place for what we can or can't do with a credit card? I can't remember, but I do remember from some of the history that Steve talked about, we want to be very careful with our credit cards.
We do, yes.
I agree with Nicole. It would be good to get the cash back, but I don't want to be in the situation we were in before.
No, approximately $70,000 or $80,000 on the car
And
that we had to.
that history hasn't helped us trying to get
Right,
a really good
Better
card.
rate, yeah.
Yeah.
right.
So we're just trying to build that up. But we could put that in terms of what we spend to answer yours. There's things that with certain accounts, you could really do that. And you just say to ourselves, we self-determine and regulate to things that either James or Anthony need that, just fit into a certain, okay, you don't spend more than this amount.
Right,
But it would be giving us a little bit of something, whereas otherwise we,
Right.
we don't do that.
then have a policy so we don't carry a balance and we're not charged the interest or else then it
Right.
kind of defeats the
Right.
purpose.
Right.
Jen, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I know we talked about that before. The initial bill for Contour, the initial payment, before we get the reimbursement, we had to come up with that, correct?
We have a line of credit for that.
Okay, that was wondering where that showed
Yes.
up on the
I wish
budget.
we had 400,000.
They do have, we do have a revolving line of credit so that when the payment comes back to us, it shuts off the interest for the use of the line of credit until we then pay again.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Dave, anything?
I'm good.
All right. Patty, anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's move on to reports. We did the income and expense. Let's do the bridge traffic reports, Steve or
Yeah.
somebody.
You received the bridge traffic report numbers, and you can see that even that was still when the Arrive Can app was around. And you can see for September, we've been running 43 to 45% down, and you can see there we're at 36. So there was improvement in September, yet Canada hadn't released or removed their Arrive Can app. Well, we ran something to where we're at now. And so if you were to compare, you see 36 September 1st to September 30th on auto crossings. Just in the first 10 days, we're at 20%. So that's 10%. We've had an increase just in that over our normal there, which is encouraging. And then when you look at our revenue, I know 12,000 is a lot of money, but we're getting closer. So just in that revenue comparison to a normal year, we're only $12,000 down. And I say only, but if you compare the numbers that we're receiving now compared to 20 or 21,
Relative, yeah.
20 or 21, they almost look normal compared to those numbers. So, we've just been all over and trying to get our perspective on where we're headed. But in line with what Patty said, I think we made the right call on budget wise. I don't want to jinx it, but it's improved to where I'm feeling more comfortable with the numbers that we chose for budget. So I think in the end, come the end of March, we should meet I think we'll be fine on budget, but we still got 6 months to go on that. But anyway, just the numbers were compared to we did 12,500 cars in 10 days in 2022, but in 2019 it was 15,700. And then truck traffic compared to a normal was down, but just realized that the US still requires vaccinations for truckers coming in and people coming in, and maybe when that's lifted, you'll see a more normal there. And those numbers a lot are driven by the economy. So if there's demand, that sometimes overcomes that vaccination thing. But I just wanted to give you an update on that. So that was good news. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Who's doing the airport activity report?
Let's see, did I get that? Yeah, I'll take care of that right now. First of all, just to let everybody know so that you're on the same page, that after 4 years of service at the airport, airport manager Stephanie Sirocco retired from the OBPA. Friday was her last day. I think most everybody's around. Stephanie joined the authority in October of 2018 and was responsible for the day-to-day operations at the airport. Her years of experience in her aviation know-how is going to be missed. And staff here, we all wish her good health and happiness in her retirement with that. So I just wanted to, let everybody know the status there. Patty's working on
New job description.
job description and will be going out fairly soon.
Personnel committee will be meeting.
And we'll discuss that going forward. We haven't, between James and myself, James has already taken on some training for the future anyway, but right now it's coming in handy. And the assistant out there, Scott Chappell, has stepped up. And while things aren't the same as when I ran it, I have a pretty good knowledge of the basics out there. And with Scott, we can handle that until we get somebody in place. We feel pretty confident there. Stephanie did a good job of getting that crew pretty immersed in everything out there, so that shows itself right now.
Well, we certainly thank her for her 4 years of service here, and a lot has happened in that 4 years time span. So you're right, Steve, we certainly all wish her well, wish her good health as she moves forward. And I know she's probably returned to an area around her family. Good for her.
Yeah. On the passenger activity report, you can see that if you look at September, and the flight, or the load was only 37, it was down. Not really having a handle on that, but generally, even when our low-cost carrier was here, September was really the worst month for air travel, with people going back to school and all of that. And even the low-cost carrier used to cut back on flights just because of for maintenance and things like that. So that's kind of expected. Patty and I were discussing, how we, in relation to the employments, I believe we're covered with a $10,000 or 10,000 passenger exemption this year, but next year will be very important. In order to do that right now, to add those 3 months, what was the number, 14?
We would need 3,800 more employments to reach the 10,000, which would mean over the next 3 months, we'd have to have over 1,200 passengers a month. And it just shows us that that's going to be a crucial number next year to get as many passengers on Contour.
Yeah, and we're working on alternatives to our advertising out there. And Anthony's working on a number of things, and we're looking at funding to get some funding to promote the airport and going in, when we can fill you in on those details, but different directions that, who knows, kind of some of the ideas there might be a sweet spot that there's things we haven't tried. And you just never know, maybe you hit something in the right market that changes all that. So we're looking at a number of different things there that are worth a try with that. And then, coming out of COVID, we can't just sit still and just, hope that things get better. As you all have told us, that we need to keep going. And, even in our financial situation, we still have to look forward. We can't just we have to nurture the new things there. And then also we need to go out and looking for, and we're working on that also. Any questions on that? It was just a rough review of the numbers, but just that's what's most important now. I don't know, Anthony, you've been working on some things. Is there anything we need to add on that?
No, not from employments or anything.
No, but and Anthony is also helping out too with some things that really are in his wheelhouse, but getting more involved at the airport.
Good, so you have the form on the solar eclipse?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It goes over-
Everyone's aware
it
of
goes-
that. In April of 2024, there will be a total solar eclipse. And we're right in the middle.
So if you have, my place at
Wow.
Saranac is right in the middle, or Saranac, Cranberry is right in line with that, so go Airbnb for a while.
Mhm.
But
Now, if you are aware of how big this becomes, if you're, those people that do that sort of thing,
they love
follow that solar eclipse around the world,
it.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we should let everyone know that we're in the path.
You said April 2024?
What,
April 8th.
April 8th, 24.
It's a sunny day.
Yeah, yeah,
Oops.
that's all.
That was excluded.
You can take a picture of my picture. Okay, anything else in the airport? Dave, you good?
All good.
Thank you. Board activity report?
Mr. Chairman, the Director of
We
Operations is
got,
going
we
to
got a
handle that from
director of
now on.
operations and now giving a report. Anne Marie, mark this
So-
on the calendar.
First of many.
Yeah.
Photo scene here was taken September 14th of Algoma Compass discharging 25,000 short tons of road salt. That same ship is to arrive this Friday, the 14th, to discharge similar tonnage of salt. Other port activity is a couple ships ago was delivered and unloaded on the pier, and to create space for this Algoma Compass coming this Friday, that salt is being relocated to a different location within the port to create easier unloads for the Algoma Compass.
So when we move that from like where they're dumping it in the photo to some other site on the port, is that at our expense?
Some of it to begin with is, and then others, it belongs to the salt company.
Depends on when.
Yeah, it depends, some of that is our responsibility, but also we can't allow the dock to just be loaded up with, and some of it has to be transported in greater lengths away. And with that, there's just a limited amount of dock frontage that we can offer for storage. We need to keep that open for, mostly during the shipping season. And, later in the season, we know what we will get or we won't get. So we can say, well, we can put that here at no cost. But there's times when we have to rent trucks and move it farther away. And that's kind of a standard for the business.
Mm-hmm.
So we work that out with the companies there, and they understand that.
So if we had the dock expansion and the dredging, we might not have needed to move that right away, and we couldn't put the new load further down.
Well, the pile on the pier has been there for how?
What's that?
The pile on the pier has been there for how long? That they are actually
A whole
relocating?
year, yeah.
That-
We
that
haven't
pile.
touched that.
That pile that they're relocating has been there for a whole year.
But I think the question you're saying that if we had that in place, yeah, we could, you could get right down there and you wouldn't be relocating any of that. And you'd have a pile probably maybe 120,000. You'd have the ability to probably put 4 ships right there, so much wider.
Right.
And then you'd probably go after that first so you could clear that off. And then anything would be an auxiliary pile back farther in the, like behind building 5 and things like that, if we needed extra. So if you were sold, you may have 2 companies competing for different areas, and that's where,
Right.
depending on how much they're bringing in and how important it is to them, they compete for the space.
So let's remember when our guests come up, that we provide them with that information. How much more valuable that is to have that done.
And moving on, you can see where the salt is being shipped out, and hope to see a possible increase with the change of weather and the change of some trucking companies shifting from summer work, asphalt, transitioning into strictly salt for the seasonal. Grain shipments have been fairly steady in and outbound. Grain related, we relocated a small amount of grain from one of the buildings to free space for future creation of treated rock salt.
Okay, any questions of Jim? Dave? Anyone else? Okay, building occupancy report and industrial commercial prospect report, Anthony.
Great. So much of this remains the same as last year. Or last month. 7 o'clock. Yeah, I'm awake. As last month. So building 4 is the most activity this minute as far as a decrease in occupancy, which we're okay with because that building's a little unique in that we could repurpose some of the spaces for some of the out-of-box things we want to try. Building 11, you'll see on the agenda by next month that will be back to full capacity. All right, we'll have I don't want to say it'll be a new tenant to that building, not a new tenant with us. That'll be tremendous to get that building back full. And just to put kind of the activity our team's been working on, basically we're having a 30% rent roll increase from last year to these new tenants. So that just kind of shines some light on the caliber of tenants going in the building. Good. And their respect for the Commerce Park and what they, our vision and what we want to achieve as a team. There's been a lot of activity on surrounding airport advertising. And we have some grant opportunities coming up that we're going to take advantage of. One of them actually is going to be submitted next week. And with that funding, it's a small amount, $25,000, but that's going to allow us ideally to reach into the Ottawa metro area with some more, I don't want to give too many details until the grant's submitted and awarded, but that would at least get our brand in the metro area of Ottawa to start driving traffic. And thankfully, ArriveCan is off the table now. Traffic's going to be increasing. We want to get our name out there. And that's what we've identified as a key component, a key customer to making the airport successful again. And then especially with the airport expansion project, it's going to be important to drive clients into our area and then be able to utilize that space for some good things.
Have we witnessed an increase in Canadians who own property in Florida wanting to go down and check on things, or?
That's a good question. We've had a couple that's all been incidental.
It's anecdotal.
Anecdotal.
Yeah.
As far as wanting
Well,
to
we're
go
getting
down.
around that time when they would ordinarily go anyway.
Right.
Well, let's hope they, they don't go down to Florida and see there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But as long as they come across our bridge and use our airport, I'm okay now. So, basically, you're telling us you have 8,400 square feet available.
Of
Which means
mixed warehousing, light manufacturing and office space.
Well, we're pretty much out of business.
Yeah.
As far as being able to rent, because
Yeah.
people want more than that.
Yeah, it's a relatively small space. It would work well for startup companies that are
Mhm.
outgrowing their garage or their basement. But it's not space that's going to put a dent in essentially our Commerce Park composition of companies.
So, would you say that we should provide information that if we had available space, we could rent it?
For certainly.
If we had a 40,000 square foot building with high ceilings, we could rent it.
I think we'd be fairly successful in that.
Good.
Modern, architecturally pleasing space.
And you have a different attitude when you have a client that you're looking to the future
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have a building. It's a lot harder to just, you can't cross that line because you don't know what it's going to go. But if you had that building, I know our staff, you're just so much more confident. And also you may get people that want to expand that are already there, that open up other spaces that are right for a new firm or whatever. But that's the one thing we just have to be so cautious about. We're hopeful, but we can't be going out making promises on something, considering the cost in this there. But it's something, our intent is we'd love to do that, but it just changes your whole attitude, or when you're talking to people and what you can kind of talk to them about.
Right.
And it's a different kind of business clientele that wants to see us build and come in and lease versus we already have the space to lease.
Right.
It's a totally different animal.
Somebody that's expanding is not going to put it in their 3-year plan to expand into our park eventually. They're going to expand tomorrow where there's space available that's going to meet their needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why it's so important to bring that information to our friends that may be coming to see us.
You reviewed some of the information that we have packets already available that were put together. You've seen some of those.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I think it increased benefit to us is the fact that the AGCO building will see activity that it appears at this point that it will be activity that will drive business across our bridge, back and forth. So that's good. It's good for us. It's good for the community. So let's see how that works out. Good. Anything else?
That's it for today.
Anyone have any questions of Anthony?
No, thank you.
Dave, you good?
All good.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, we have the airport. We didn't go over the buildings. We have 2 vacant hangars.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that's fallen under our office purview
What's today, the 11th?
to
You
fill
got,
those up.
you got 20 days to fill those, Anthony. Fill them by Halloween. Yeah. It's good. It's only 2.
Only 10.
Okay.
One apparently was only a summer rental,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we knew that the one was going to be.
Was there a tie down? Did I see a tie down out there?
There is tie downs out there, yes.
I thought I saw
You saw
One
somebody
actually tied down?
actually tied down.
I thought I did.
I didn't.
Maybe they were just there for a day or 2. Okay. Unfinished business. Mr. Lawrence, is there any
There is none, Mr. Chairman.
business items? Item A1, approval of remote attendance policy.
The governance committee met October 4th, 2020, and discussed the requirements for remote attendance policy under Public Officers Law 103-A with guidance from council. After a thorough review, the committee recommended the attached policy be put before the board of directors for approval.
Okay. So everyone had a chance to look that over. I think it was very well done. Jennifer, thank you for the assistance in
My
that.
pleasure.
Very well done. Right to the point. Spells out everything, follows the requirements I think we need as a public body. Is there a motion by anyone to move the resolution?
Also move.
Been made and seconded. Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item. Wait a minute, it can't be A1, you can't have two A1s. That must be B1, right? Yep. B1, approval lease supplement number 7 with NAC Logistics.
Okay, staff has negotiated lease supplement number 7 with NAC Logistics for a section of parking lot at the Bridge Administration Building for a 4-month term commencing November 1st, 2022 and terminating February 28th, 2023 at a rate of $400 per month equaling $1,600 for the 4-month term. All of the terms and conditions of the original lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect, are hereby ratified and affirmed. This solely, so they're a current tenant in Building 3 in our Commerce Park campus. As a supplement, they lease parking lot space for car carrier trucks. So this simply just moves it aligns their leases to end at the same time.
Okay.
So February is when, well, before February, we're going to reassess with the tenant to see what the long-term plans are.
And you'll do both.
Yeah, they're going to be combined moving forward.
Okay. Resolution is before you. Is there a motion?
Motion made. Oh, second.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Cork Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes?
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Motion carries.
You. Agenda item C1.
Okay, approval of lease agreement with Strader Ferris International Limited. Staff has negotiated a new lease agreement with Strader Ferris International Limited for 20,000 square feet of warehousing and distribution space in Building 11 of the Commerce Park campus for a 4-year term commencing November 1st, 2022 and terminating October 31st, 2026 at a rate of $5.20 per square foot, equaling $8,667 per month or $104,000 per year. Lease rate is subject to a 3% escalation each year during the term of the lease. Strader Ferris International Limited has the ongoing option to renew the lease for additional 4-year terms. And Strader Ferris International will also be responsible for prorated share of utilities. So this is the half of Building 11 that's been vacant or will be vacant. Friday.
Okay.
So there's a 2-week span, gives us plenty of time to go in and freshen up, and then they'll be in November 1st.
Excellent. Okay. So this gives them how many square feet tall?
They have about, I think, a 9% in our Commerce Park. So just under 10. But, let's see,
So we're talking about 35,000 square feet?
yeah, just about. Yep. No, it's closer to 60.
60?
There's one entire building already.
Yeah.
Plus parking and two.
Excellent.
So,
Well, we thank them for expanding.
They're a
Sure.
long-term tenant.
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. We need more of those, Anthony.
yeah.
They're,
They do a good job of taking care of their space as well as updating it. and they have a good eye for, I would say, what a first-class operation looks like. So it's a pleasure to have them in that space.
Very good. Good job. Good job. Give you credit when it's deserved. They also give you criticism when it's deserved.
Perfect.
The resolution's before you. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
It's been made
Second.
and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Diane, Emery, call the roll.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes,
Ms. Prokopowicz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item D1.
Approval of lease agreement with General Services Administration, or GSA, and Transportation Security Administration, TSA. Staff has negotiated a new lease agreement with GSA and TSA for 508 square feet of office, break room, and private screening space at the Ogdensburg International Airport for a 10-year term commencing October 7th, 2022, and terminating October 6th, 2032, at a rate of $25.59 per square foot, equaling $1,083.31 per month, or $12,999.72 per year for years 1 through 5, and a rate of $28.66 per square foot, equaling $1,213.27 per month, or $14,559.28 per year for years 6 through 10. GSA TSA will be granted one secured parking space for federal vehicles and has the right in years 6 through 10 to terminate the lease agreement by providing written notice 120 days in advance of desired termination date. Just a kind of a special note to this, I was speaking with GSA this afternoon, and there was some overlap in paperwork. So this hasn't been fully reviewed by them, by all there, hasn't gone through the whole process. They know it needed board approval on our end, but there may be a scenario to where they would extend the current lease for a month or two, depending on how long this takes. So you may see another resolution that essentially goes back and extends. It would be the 11th amendment of the current contract to give them a month or two to finish their review of this and send it through their approval and signature process. But as of the inclusion in this board, as a board resolution, it was
What is the date on this?
October 7th was the start. So our current lease expired October 6th. We've started this process back in August. And so that was just kind of a 11th hour news before we met this afternoon.
I think it's okay to do that, wouldn't it be? To just go back and have another.
There could potentially be, depending on ongoing discussions, where this would just take precedence and they would make it retroactive back to just have.
Because we have amounts in here, so if their agreement doesn't match these amounts, right?
So this could go forward and we could have to adjust it and amend it
Yeah, if needed, but
if needed.
ideally this is gonna take root.
Jen, is that your feeling?
It takes me a minute to click the microphone, but yes, I agree.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
all right, thank you.
Want to make sure.
Yeah, because we're authorizing, the resolution is that we're authorizing them to sign a lease agreement with these parameters. If these parameters don't end up happening, then it would just be a different resolution come for us.
Good with it.
Can't add another 28 cents to make it a clean 13,000.
Does
Does that bother anybody else?
12 for 12%, 12%.
Resolutions before you, their motion.
I'll move it.
It's been made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Ms. Whitten?
Yes.
Ms. Terminelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
yes,
Ms. Prokopowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Agenda item M. Is there something else I don't?
Wait on that, or do you want to go into executive session to discuss?
Well, we're gonna, no matter when we have it, we're gonna need executive session. If first we could amend the agenda, so we deal with agenda item G before we deal with agenda item F.
I would make the
F.
motion.
I mean, F2.
It would be F2.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. F. Wait a
Who's in
minute.
F2?
Yes.
Which one's F
That's me.
two?
That's
Oh,
the split
easement.
Split easements.
All the easements.
So F2 would be the next one.
Okay,
Yeah, let's just. can we skip that?
okay. So actually, or we can move agenda item F after F2 and G1. That's your motion.
I would make a motion to move agenda item F1 to the bottom of the agenda.
Okay. That
And I'll
takes,
second.
that takes care of it, no matter where. It's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye. No one opposed. Okay, so let's deal with agenda item F2.
Okay, approval of easement supplements number 2 with Slick Network Solution. So staff has negotiated 6 easement supplements number 2 with Slick Network Solutions for easements located at various authority railroad crossings, as further outlined below, for a 5-year term commencing June 1st, 2022 and terminating May 31st, 2027 at a rate of $2,600 for the 5-year term. And you'll see the 6 that are outlined in the towns of Madrid, Lisbon, Norwood, Potsdam. And then all of the terms of the original lease agreement shall remain in full force and effect and are hereby ratified and affirmed. And I believe these are aerial
Mhm.
fiber
I
optic.
gotta say they're
Across the-
over, not
Yep.
under, right?
That cross our-
Right. Okay, resolution before you, their motion
So moved.
been made
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes,
Ms. Whitman?
Yes.
Ms. Germanelli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. Agenda item G1.
Okay, approval of engagement for foreign trade zone legal services with Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg, PA. Staff desires to engage with the law firm of Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg, PA on an as-needed, as-desired basis for the specific purpose of general representation of foreign trade zone FTZ number 118, which is us, matters including but not limited to updates to the zone schedule, FTZ operations agreements, application review and preparation, and questions as they arise. An attorney with extensive FTZ knowledge who worked with the OBPA in the past has joined Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg, PA, and staff would like to continue to have access to his expertise. Staff intends to continue to utilize our current FTZ law firm, Miller and Company, as well, and have the flexibility to engage with either law firm. Sandler, Travis, and Rosenberg, PA will charge a discounted hourly rate of $440, billed in 6-minute increments when they are engaged to act on behalf of the OBPA.
What are you laughing at, Megan?
Can I ask a
Love
clarifying
lawyers.
question? Wait, is this like $44 for every 6 minutes? Is that what it boils
No,
down
it's
to?
their hourly rate.
We
Okay.
bill in 6
Yeah.
minutes.
6
Okay.
minutes, increments.
So if we hit 13 minutes, they're gonna charge us $88.
Yes.
Or no,
Well,
move into
13
the,
would be the-
it would
it would
move into
round
the
up to
next.
the-
Yeah, it would
Okay.
be for,
Three,
Understood.
6-minute.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
you want to talk quick. Okay.
132, got it.
So this attorney has, from everything I can see in our files, he has been our go-to for years.
Yes.
And he just so happened to switch law firms.
Yeah.
And so,
Hence the discount.
Now, have we received our renewal on the FTZ?
so I'm actually in conversation with Miller and Company on the process to add our neighbors in the ACO property to the FTZ.
Okay.
So that's, just started that process about middle of last week, and that's ongoing. The next time any documentation of the government on an annual basis, that'll be in the January timeframe. So January 2023 will be our report that we submit to the FTZ board.
Okay.
Yes.
Ask the question.
Okay.
If the final place of assembly of raw materials is outside our FTZ, is there still any way we can provide FTZ benefits?
Good question.
That's what there is.
Final place of assembly
Yes.
is outside.
Our,
Right,
we cover St. Lawrence County,
right.
Yes.
all St. Lawrence County.
Okay.
But part of what the FTZ is used for is you import raw materials, you assemble it, you're not paying full duty when it's imported into the country. So at the final place of assembly is outside our county, as zone administrator, that's how we receive funding. Is there still an advantage we can provide that particular company, even though it's not being assembled in St. Lawrence County?
Great question.
I'll get you some answers.
Because if it's possible, it may provide us with additional business somewhere else.
And are there certain conditions that could be in place that would allow for that to
Yes.
happen?
Yes, he knows what I'm talking about. All right, I think it's my opinion again. I think the FTZ is very important. I wish we could use it more often. Let's hope things work out so we can and provide a firm to be more productive and employ more individuals. My opinion. There's motion on the resolution
So moved.
made
I'll second.
and seconded. Any further discussion?
One question,
Yes.
what's their normal rate?
441.
No, I was.
I mean, it says discounted rate, I was wondering what kind of a discount we were getting.
I want to say it was 770
Wow.
or a small board.
Ask it quick. Anything else, Dave?
Nope, I'm good now, thank you.
You don't chat about hockey, or?
No.
I'm gonna raise my rates, so.
Better study up on FTZs.
Again, the motion has been seconded. Anne Marie, call the roll.
Yes.
Mr. Burns?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes,
Motion carried.
Okay. So we can go back to the resolution on the engineering firm. Railroad engineering firm. And we've had presentations by two firms tonight. I believe we may need to discuss that for a little bit. So I need a motion to go into executive session because we are, Mr. Lawrence?
It would be section 105F of the open meetings law. And it would relate to the medical, financial, credit, employment history, or particular person or corporation, matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
Thank you. Is there a
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made. Second. Then seconded. All those in favor of going into executive session to discuss such matters, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed? We are in executive session. Okay. It is, wow, 7:52. Coming out of executive session, we are discussing agenda item F1, selection of a railroad engineering consultant. Steve, would you read the report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item F1 is the New York and Ogdensburg Railroad, selection of a railroad engineering consultant. The Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority solicited a request for qualifications for a consulting engineer for the New York and Ogdensburg Railroad for a 5-year period. Proposals were received and opened on August 26, 2022. These proposals were reviewed and evaluated by authority staff and the facilities committee. It is the committee's recommendation that Erdman Anthony be awarded the railroad engineering consultant contract. Resolved that the Board of Directors of the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority does hereby select Erdman Anthony as the authority's consulting engineer for the next 5-year period for the Port of Ogdensburg.
Thank you. That is the resolution before you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been made,
I'll second.
seconded. Is there any discussion? None. Anne Marie, call the roll, please.
Mr. Manelli?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Clerk Pickens?
Yes.
Mr. Byrne?
Yes,
Ms. Whitman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
thank you. Mr. Lawrence, is there any other matters?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any concluding comments from board members or authority staff?
Yes, I would like to thank Jennifer for giving us her time on her anniversary.
Oh.
And she couldn't make her reservations, I'm assuming. I'm sorry to get
We'll go
back to-
another night. The bigger
Huh?
concern right now is that the Rangers game already started, so, let's wrap it up.
What was that?
That's for you, Sam.
How many years? How many years?
19.
About time.
Got a long way to go to catch me.
True.
Use that tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. Next meeting date, November 10th, Thursday at 4 PM. Is 5 actually? Oh, that's the day before Veterans Day. Is 5 a better time? Veterans Day's on a Friday this year? Wow.
3-day week.
5 better for everyone?
If you want me in person, 5 has to
5
be.
works.
Yeah. 5 works for you, Jen? 5 work for you, Dave?
No, I can't be here. I'll be in California.
Ooh.
I'll be with him.
Megan?
Right, did you say the 11th?
Yeah, no, 10.
Oh, sorry. That's a hard maybe. Yeah, no, I might be a few minutes late.
That's
If it's
all
at
right.
5.
Okay, I'm assuming Chris, you may get Tony. But that will give us a quorum, so let's go with November 10th at 5 PM. Okay? All right, anything else from anyone?
No, sir. Nope.
If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.